Hi, Paul here from PRwilsonmedia. I passionately believe that when used effectively, Twitter and social media in general really can make a world of difference to each and every business out there. For me, it's no longer a question of whether or not I should use Twitter or other platforms. It's how effectively you use them to raise your profile, find new customers, and build an engaged audience. Over the next 2 hours, I'm going to show some of the benefits of Twitter, give you some real-world case study examples, and then I'm going to show you practical, easy-to-implement tips that you can take away and use for your business. Here we go. Before we get started with the presentation proper, just a few words to introduce myself. So I'm a social media consultant and trainer, and I set up my own social media practice in 2012. Now, my route into this career was unusual in that it was through a charity event that I learned the ropes. So I was working in IT as an infrastructure architect, travelling away a lot, and I wanted to give more back to my local community. So I actually joined the Rotary Club of Grantham in 2011. Soon found out about a brilliant community swim event every year, the Swim Marathon, which takes place over 3 days, raises something in the region of £40,000 to £50,000 for local charities. Hundreds and hundreds of people take part, and the idea from the event chair was to take this to other Rotary clubs around the world. The incentive being a Guinness World Record and raising money for the End Polio campaign, a worldwide campaign to eradicate the dreadful disease of polio. I had some knowledge of social media, and while I was still working away in my spare time, I could help connect with other clubs and publicise the event. Well, as you'll see in the case study later, it was an extraordinary journey, enough to convince me of the incredible power of social media for making a difference, as I said in the intro. Now let's talk about your perspectives, particularly on Twitter. Now I appreciate this is a video recording, so I'll have to speculate as to your views, but I'm sure a good number of you out there do this. There are so many aspects to Twitter that people seem to find less than straightforward. Is it for my business? Celebrities everywhere. What is all this endless chatter, and how do I get involved with it? So, it's about how much experience you've had of the platform. Have you tried to set something up? How far have you got? But more importantly, what is your perception of Twitter? Why? How do you see it? Is it something that you think is just for a particular generation, something beyond your grasp? Is it not relevant to your business? Or is it something you'd really like to use but you just don't know how? So in that way, what are your hopes from this training? What are you aiming to get out of it? And concerns. Now I think the most common concerns that I come across all the time are, I just don't have the time to understand what it's about. I know I should be on there, but I just don't have the time. And people are also worried about security, of course, at the outset. How much of your personal data could be exposed? It's public, it's viewable. Representing my company, what kind of issues will that bring about? Hopefully, as we go through this presentation, you'll get a clearer picture of what exactly it is, how you can best use it in your business, and allay some of those concerns and doubts. Really, the best way is to get involved, get stuck in, and see it in action. So let's now focus on the benefits of Twitter for your business. And the number one reason is that Twitter, as with all the main social media platforms, is free to use. Now, the project that I mentioned, the swim, around 10,000 people ended up taking part in the global swim event. and it cost our Rotary Club absolutely nothing. Not a single penny. Now, of course, there is a cost in terms of the time commitment you need to set up and maintain an account, but I would argue that as long as you adapt a gradual, build up slowly approach, and that you're given the right training and guidance initially, it really represents a brilliant investment of your time and energy when you consider the results it can produce. And certainly when you compare with traditional advertising, newspaper ads are there for a short time limited period, it really offers a very low cost way to spread the word about what you do. Now, being accessible on Twitter really can raise the profile of your business quite dramatically. There's a great local example of this, the Burton Road Chip Shop in Lincoln. Now, over time, through Twitter, I've built up a picture of the business just through its tweets and activity. Its great support for local charities, regular special offers, awards and accolades, and it really would be the first fish and chip shop I'd think of if I was out in Lincoln. This is the long-term strategy. It's not about immediate impact and selling, it's about maintaining a presence and growing your business awareness. But also when it comes to finding new opportunities and customers, Twitter provides a great first point of contact. When you connect with somebody follows you back. You can say thank you, give a helpful reply, show that you share a common interest, recommend people to others. As I'll highlight in the case studies coming up, you never know where it may lead. And Twitter is a fantastic place to ask questions, gather feedback and share ideas. The perfect way to gather valuable information from your audience. And of course, it's a great place to monitor your industry peers and competitors. A recent survey of market intelligence decision makers conducted by Digimind revealed that the vast majority, over 80%, monitor social media sites to extract information about competitors, industry developments, consumer trends, and 62.5% monitor Twitter, the highest activity for any platform. Of course, generally speaking, when people visit your website, unless they choose to leave a contact message, once they close that page, you really have no way of knowing that they've visited or whether there's something they'd like more information on. In contrast, when someone's interested in your Twitter feed, they can reply, they can share with their own networks, and the key thing is that once they do, you have an instant record that they've been in touch. And this leads neatly on to the final benefit, improved customer service. For me, the most important. It's really not just about finding new contacts. It's a great way to keep your existing customers engaged and informed, people you've met in the real world, and you can continue the connection on Twitter. A single tweet can reach hundreds or even thousands of customers, and you can respond much quicker to inquiries than via traditional means. And the great thing is it's completely flexible, and you choose when to sign on and for how long. You can use digital mobile devices. There are so many ways to keep up to date and stay in touch. So as you can see, many reasons to use Twitter. But how does it work? Let's go through the basics of Twitter. Any social media platform has a basic level. You need to understand three things: how to make connections with other people and businesses, how to publish your content, and then how to respond to content shared by others. So let's look at each of those three steps in turn. How to connect. The good news is that making connections on Twitter is really straightforward. You follow other accounts and they can follow you back. By following an account, that means you will potentially be able to see all the messages or tweets from that account in what's called the news feed area. If, however, you follow an account, for example a celebrity or a public BBC News channel, that doesn't follow you back, you can still see their public messages, but they can't see yours. So particularly for businesses looking to establish an audience and grow their profile, it's so important to identify and connect with relevant accounts that will follow you back. And this will also give you the opportunity, when you follow each other, to send private messages to those followers. We'll talk more about how you do that shortly. But first, let's take a quick look at the Twitter interface so you can see how this works. Here I am logged in to an account for the Dysart Park Action Group, a local community project that I support on Twitter, and I thought it was perfect to demonstrate some of the principles today. So first thing we see is number of tweets, number of people following, number of followers. So if I want to follow some more people, how can I go about that? Well, I can click on who's followed me and see if there are any that I haven't followed yet. There'll usually be some new ones in. So all I need to do is click follow. If I look at this account now, it says follows you, and I now follow them, which means that I can now send a direct message to that person. As I mentioned, you can send a private message, again 140 characters. Okay, so there are other accounts that I'm following. Let's take a look. Let's see if we can find one that isn't following us back at this point. Yeah, so this account isn't following us back because it just says following. So if I was to unfollow at this point, the other account wouldn't know that I've unfollowed. We'll talk about some of those techniques slightly later on, but you get the principle. Really, to build a connection, you can follow a certain number of people. Here I followed 1998. We'll see that shortly that will go past the limit because you have to have roughly the same number of people follow you back once you get to 2000, but we'll come back to that again shortly. So let's look at point number 2. How you write the content. Again, this is really very straightforward. From your home page, you can click in the message box or click again on this quill icon in the top right hand corner. As is well known, you're only able to use a maximum of 140 characters in each tweet. And of course, as you type your tweet, the number of available characters will count down. You can also include links to websites which can be shortened and attach photos. So let's demonstrate that. Okay, so if I just click on the home page to go back to where we were, so you have a little area here called compose new tweet. So if you can do the classic hello world, you see that the numbers are counting down. Here's the photograph icon. So if I want to add a photo, just click on that icon and then just browse to a suitable folder. Let's go to pictures, my pictures, public pictures, some sample pictures, just an example. Desert, I'll just pick that one at random, and you see it takes up a certain number of characters and the image will appear as a link. This is a test. I'm also going to show you that when you've composed a message, now you can do it here. This is actually going out live, but what we'll do is we'll show you how you can delete a tweet that you've posted. Your tweet was posted. Click on tweets and you can see it's appeared as a picture. Two things: one is that it appears as a nice big area, and two is that look in this corner here, you've got a selection of 6 previous photos. So that's great, they're always there and it can reference back to the original tweet. So this was an event last summer just scroll back through the pictures to this one. Then I'll just click back to go back. So as I said, the other way you can compose a tweet is to click on the quill icon in the top right hand corner. Say hello world. There you go. Now, all of these 1419 people have the opportunity to see that tweet. So I don't want them to be going, what's he talking about there? So I can remove these tweets fairly straightforward. Just go to the tweet, click delete. So that's now been removed. Of course, if somebody's really lightning quick and they've clicked share or retweeted it, the message may go further, but without the original message it will disappear. You do get these cases where several people have publicly retweeted a controversial message, etc., and it's tracked back, but in the cases of most average users, you make a slight mistake, you think, okay, I'll just remove that, it's fine, it's not a problem. Very easy interface to use. So either the quill, or when you're on the home page, the compose new tweet box. So the third thing, how you interact with people. So when you've seen tweets from the accounts that you follow in your news feed, there are three basic ways that you can respond. One is to reply. You can send a reply to the person directly, or persons, more than one account. Two is retweet. This is the equivalent of Facebook sharing. You're sharing with all of your followers something that you find of interest. And three is you can favorite it. You can bookmark it as something useful to refer back to later. A great way to use favorites is when you get positive customer feedback. You can store those so they're all available to see in one place. So let's see how we can do some interaction. So all the up-to-date tweets appear here on the right hand side in tweets. So you can see how long ago they were posted, 1 minute ago. And these are all the accounts that you follow will appear in this tweet. Now, as you can see, because you're following lots of different accounts, in this case 1998, it can be fairly random. So we will show you the use of lists shortly, which will filter out this view so you can just see relevant stuff. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit and find some content from my own profile page, which I know is something that I want to share from this account. So if I look for my name in the search bar there, I've typed it in, and I go to the account and we'll click on tweets there. So there was a video yesterday, a great community event for our daughter club, the Rotary Club of Grantham Stephen, Children of Courage Award. So I'd like to retweet that to my followers. So I'll just click retweet, and it's now marked that I've retweeted it. I can also take a look at anything else I want to reply to, where somebody's asked a question, etc. And so I could click reply. Now this will go to the two accounts that I'm replying to only. There's a little quirk with Twitter where if you reply just to the people that you've mentioned, it starts with the @ character, it will only be seen by the followers of those accounts and your own followers who also follow those accounts. Simple. If you put a little dot in front of it, it means it goes to all of your followers. Looking forward to attending. Well, here now, so okay, so that message is a reply, and that will be shown up as a notification on that other user's account, so they'll see that they've got a message direct from a person. Okay, so the final thing to show you is favorites, and just looking through if any of these is something I want to favorite. to return back to later. Let's have a look at our notifications and see if anybody's... Now this is a very important area, the notifications. Every day you log in as a routine and you check to see who's been in touch with you. So for example here, the next meeting is on the 14th of March, so I've favorited that to come back to it. Let's just click on that button, favorite. When it goes orange, it's been favorited. So let's just see that where it would appear. We click on the name of the account and we always get tweets, following, followers, favorites. That's what we want. So you can see all the bookmarks that I've noted. So look, if you love your community, then you should follow dice.parkag. That's positive feedback, so that's why that's there. So that's replies, retweets and favorites, and we'll see examples of those in the demonstrations later on. So hopefully that's shown you enough of the principles of Twitter interaction. So eventually you find people to connect with, you write something, and then you share something that they've written back to you or shared with their networks, and that's how it goes. And how does that translate into positive real world results? It's time for the case studies, and the first one is the global splash, the global swim marathon from 2012, where we broke a world record, had 4,546 people swim in the same hour. Totally different time zones, different continents, different countries of the world, all brought together in a virtual community. And what's happened since then has become even more remarkable, and Twitter has played a pivotal role throughout, particularly when it comes to encouraging wider participation and media coverage. This is the impact of the event. Not only global swim events, but other Facebook initiated and Twitter campaign events on the same cause for Meal to End Polio. So the knives and forks mixed in with all the other ones. These are all the countries in the world that are represented. There's something like 600 plus events now happening every year in February around Rotary Day. Extraordinary. So where does Twitter fit into it precisely? Well, actually, when it came to finding, for example, people from the sporting world, swimmers, international Paralympic and Olympic swimmers to be our ambassadors, there's one classic example back in November 2011 where I followed various swimming accounts. Fran Williamson at FrannyWill on Twitter followed back the account, and as I said, thank you. Conversations ensued, and she ended up becoming an ambassador for an event, and she's attended the Grantham event for the last 3 years. Been fantastic ambassador. She's recorded a video. We've also had other swimmers and also triathletes, all kinds of athletes around the place. I've got wind of the water polo, the Great Britain women's water polo team. All of this has been followed up through Twitter, and because Twitter is part of this even bigger network, we've got something like 6,800 followers. You can see there. The Rotary International account has got well over 200,000 followers. But when we tweet and we mention Rotary International, as a Japan account as one example, but the main Rotary account has so often shared our story when we mention at Rotary in the tweet. Let me give you an example of that. What I've done here is I've brought up the list of favourites, the kind of positive messages, Rotary clubs, regions, the local paper, Rotary International here, the video. They produced a cartoon video about the event, which they've shared with Social Media World 13. There's some information about one of our ambassadors, the fantastic Ramesh Ferris, and there's Fran, who I mentioned. So Twitter is really, really powerful. You think of all the media contacts that are out there, all of the people who maybe weren't aware, all of these world record attempts they had, local newspaper coverage, we could all share that between ourselves. The German club here, Rotary Club in Oberberg, were the first to connect just via Twitter and join the event. They would have had no information about it other than that. These are guys who swam in New Zealand, along the coast, all kinds of fabulous stories. So, how much has been achieved? Well, all in all, since 2012, between this and the sister event, Greatest Meal, over $860,000 US has been raised. More than 23,000 people at events organised by over 900 clubs in 56 countries have taken part. And if you want to put that amount raised into context, what it does, it will pay for the immunisation of 1.4 million children. Now, there are 100,000 seats in Wembley Stadium, and for the Sport Relief Challenge recently, Robbie Savage and Alan Shearer took the best part of 4 days between them to sit on them all. So just imagine 14 times that amount. That gives you an indication of the scale of what's been achieved, all through a very simple idea shared. But it's not just about these extraordinary global events. The same principles apply at every level. So from that global export from Grantham to a national launch from Grantham, gravitating to Grantham. In March 2012, I was put in contact by a Rotary colleague with South Kesteven District Council, who recommended me to them because they were 6 months away from a highly ambitious brand new science and arts festival celebrating Lincolnshire's most famous son, Sir Isaac Newton, Gravity Fields. Very much a race against time to raise awareness both amongst the local population and the wider science and arts community. And it was during this project that I learnt the key importance of Twitter for building a relevant audience, and we'll talk much more about that shortly. And by proactively following local business, community and media accounts, connecting with followers and attendees of the likes of the Cheltenham Science Festival, astronomy groups, and establishing early contact with the festival presenters and performers, I was able to rapidly build up a very engaged and supportive following of over 4,000 in that 6 months. And remarkably, the most widely deployed measure of social media influence clout reported a higher rating for our fledgling festival than for any established festival in the country bar Edinburgh during the peak of the event. Let's take a look again at the Twitter account for Gravity Fields. The best examples again are through looking at the pictures that are associated with the account, so these are all relatively recent. As you can see, the festival is now continued into 2014 and we're already building up. Dallas Campbell was the BBC TV presenter, science broadcaster who opened the festival in 2012, and we stayed in touch with Dallas throughout the build-up, and we still use these little bits of #Newton wave, Dallas, give us a wave. But you know, these guys actually respond really well to sort of a humorous touch. They have big audiences. Dallas has something like 10,000 followers. He has the blue tick, which means he's a recognised public figure or company. So you can see how when these guys interact, it really does widen the publicity. And for the grand transformation of the town night during the festival, if we can maybe look back through the photos here, I can pick out some. There was an extraordinary 12,000 people who gathered in Grantham for that evening. We saw incredible acrobatic aerial performances, great balls of fire, all manner of things going on. There's BBC's Sky at Night presenter Chris Lintott visiting the tree for the first time. What a big moment for him. There's Dallas being greeted by a dubious looking Isaac Newton replication. But you can see photographs were so important, and actually during that transformation of the town night, it was all of the pictures from everyone else discovering things as they wandered around the town that really made it embedded in the minds of the people. And that was the project in September 2012 that was the starting point for me actually setting up as a career for this. It was that impactful. And I think this picture sums up for me the spirit of the festival. It was a brand new fusion of arts and science. This is from the Guildhall Theatre. They produced this great graphic. The banana complaining that it should have been him. The apple getting all the attention. They're just typical of the kind of things that we use. Lots of images, lots of engaging links to the website. The website is very important. It has to be something that's very interactive, and fitting those things together really worked well. But our third example, we really need to move from the global to the UK to an East Midlands wide example, a Grantham based sign manufacturing company. And the connection line continues because it was Viking Signs who were involved during the festival and doing the signage, and their managing director Darren Joyne had got in touch with me in January 2013 after the festival. The brief was clear. As a well-established signage company, often the first to hear about new business launches in the local area, they wanted to make far better use of Twitter to promote and showcase local success stories. Darren also encouraged me to join my first networking group in Grantham, Total Networking, and look after the Twitter promotion of that account. Now, we took Viking Signs, and we'll show you the account shortly, from less than 200 followers, being the second most followed signage company in Grantham, to 2,500, making it the most followed signage company in the local region. And through a combination of his own personal account interacting with Viking Signs' Twitter feed, Darren has been able to respond quickly to product inquiries and build a great profile and reputation with local organisations. A great example of that was the Viking Challenge bike race charity event in Leicestershire, which has been going on for years. They only discovered that through Twitter, and they offered sponsorship, they provided the signage, they ran a competition which got interest into the event to give away a GoPro camera, and that's one of the things that's been great. What's been great is the way that the Viking team have taken on board the new possibilities. They've even taught me about a great app for generating content called Buffer, where you get ideas and suggestions of things you could share, and a very clever bit of free software called Rafflecopter, which could be used to encourage social media sharing and offer giveaways. So here they are today, and there's a great description about the business and what their aims are, what they're looking to do. When you click on the link, you can see the backdrop is there. You can see the photos, the pictures, the information. These shortened links, automated software, getting involved with sponsorship, We look at their favourites, see what's been highlighted. There's Darren's own account. There's McTurnan, a Paralympian that I'm working with, that they're going to support. Thank you from Rafflecopter. Other business networking contacts, and there's great customer feedback. This Helen Girl treat sums it up. Is there anywhere they haven't conquered? Great work and a local company to do business. Exactly what they wanted to achieve at the outset. And I think all these case studies go to show that Twitter is really a great way to find people with a common interest, customers, people who want to get involved, support you, partners, and build those relationships irrespective of where your actual business is physically located. I love the sheer variety of organisations I've been lucky enough to work with. I've worked with a male voice choir, HR consultants, science fiction fantasy writer, tech startup in New York, a Lincolnshire Paralympian, art gallery owner in Cornwall, a huge range of local and national charities. And the common thread is that in every case, Twitter and social media has made a difference. And for me, there's no greater reward than that. But here's the thing. I speak with a lot of business owners who are struggling to get going with social media. They're usually well aware of the potential benefits that I've already outlined. They want to make it work. But this stuff doesn't come with instruction manuals. Such a confusing and seemingly endless array of platforms to choose from. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, the list goes on. Your time is precious. Distractions are everywhere. How on earth do you make your voice heard in amongst the chattering millions online? It's all very well for social media marketeers to preach things like content is king. You need to write engaging articles and use eye-catching imagery, but come on, you've got a business to run. If the landscape feels like this to you, you're not alone. But the good news is, through my experiences I've highlighted in the case studies, through seeing what works, through finding the most efficient ways to manage and get things done, I've developed a simple, repeatable, common sense approach that really can help you get more from Twitter and other social media platforms and save you time and money in the process. My 3 steps to social media success: prepare, build, and engage. So step 1, prepare. As soon as you've created any social media account, you need to take control of the information you're sharing and who you're sharing it with. Remember that all social media platforms are open by default, so it's your responsibility to ensure that your account and privacy settings are set up how you want them. It should take an hour or 2 at most to do the main bulk of it, so it's really time well spent. Now, the other key task of the prepare stage is to make sure that you fully complete your profile. Add a quality personal photo or company logo, write a clear and concise description of your business offering, add your website links. Just don't sign up on half a dozen platforms and then leave empty spaces. You've got to remember that your brand and your message really needs to be consistent and visible to encourage others to connect with you. So this leads nicely into step 2, build, which is all about being proactive in creating a targeted audience. Rather than rush straight into broadcasting on social media in the vain hope that the crowds will come flocking to you, first spend some time thinking about who it is that you're looking to connect with. There's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to reaching the biggest possible targeted audience in the most efficient way, there is no better social media platform than Twitter. It's the lists functionality available that works just like a ready-made community directory. No matter what the subject, you can find numerous openly available lists that will help you zoom in on potential followers who share a common interest. You want quality followers, as in people who are interested in what you have to say and like what you're doing, who have the potential to become customers and brand ambassadors for your business. These are the followers who will spread the word and let others know about your account and your website. And the final step, engage. This is all about getting your message across in the most effective way possible. Variety is the key. A good mix of photos, links to relevant website articles, pages, videos, presentations. And at the same time, it's so important to actively participate and share the content of others to be seen as a community contributor. And that certainly doesn't mean you need to spend hour after hour online, because there are many free, easy to use social media management tools that can help you schedule and target your updates to get the optimal results. Remember, to really engage effectively, you have to first take proper control of your setup, prepare, get your audience in place, build. Every stage is equally important and needs to be completed. So let's look at the first of these options, prepare. Are you ready for Twitter? So you have to prepare. As we've talked about, the brand message is really important. You need to be clearly visible, identifiable as you the person or you the company, and you need to get your account settings as secure so that you're comfortable getting used to using Twitter. So we'll start with the account settings and then we'll look at your profile. We'll go over to the account that we've already been looking at, the Dysart Park Action Group account. Across the top we have home, notifications. Discover is where you can find suggestions for who you might want to interact with, etc. And me just opens up the tweets, followers, favorites, view. You can also get to that just by clicking on the picture. But what we're looking at is settings, and we go to the star wheel and we click settings. Here we have the 15 or up to 15 character username. We've selected that's effectively the permanent name, so it doesn't want to be edited. You can, as I'll show you shortly in the profile section, change the display name, which is this one across the top, and that can add a little bit more detail. The time zone for some reason there is GMT, but it's Morocco rather than London, so I'll just change that. And just to show you that when you change anything, you're prompted to reconfirm your password. Now, security and privacy, there are ways you can add additional layers, steps to log on if you're having a particular issue perhaps, but then you have to register a mobile phone account to send a request to. Similarly, in terms of is it worth using, the tweet privacy option here, protect my tweets. On the face of it, you might think as a new user would seem a sensible option, but actually I would strongly caution against it. Because if you enable this feature, it means that only people that follow you back are allowed to see your messages. And you first have the extra task of approving anyone who wants to follow you. And the really important thing is that nobody will be able to share or retweet your messages with their audience. Now, if you're just a passive follower on Twitter and you just want news updates from people you've chosen, you don't actually want to tweet, well, that's fine, but then there's no need to protect your account because you're not actually saying anything. And anyone who's actively seeking to grow audience and raise awareness, it really impacts your ability to do that. I can just show you one example of somebody who's protected an account to see what happens. Now I follow this account. I'll just unfollow for a second and just show following. It says pending, account approved. Until the account's approved, the person gets the message, but look, I can't retweet anything. Now they've sent 900 tweets. I've only got a small following, but they've put all the effort into talking about social media marketing, Well, there's an important step that's missing here, and that's not to protect your tweets. If I do a search for protect tweets, hopefully there won't be any bad language out there, but there's a lot of hostility. Why do people protect the tweets? It's just something that gets in the way. It's a little bugbear that people have when they're following accounts, and you're a new user, you don't want to upset people. Remember that people can see your activity publicly, and you just have to be aware of what it is that you're sharing. Let's go back to the star wheel and settings. And one last thing in accounts is the email notifications. If you take a look at this, you can see there are lots of checkbox options that are selected. So you get an email every time someone favorites a tweet for reference later, every time someone retweets a message, replies, follows you, sends you a direct message, and these 5 alone can generate a huge amount of email traffic. And if you're thinking about the next stage, the build in your audience, the techniques I'll demonstrate will make it easy to gain 20 to 30 followers a day. So that's at least 20 to 30 emails into maybe an account that you use for other things. So you have to sift through them, remove them. And actually everything you see from an email you get in notifications anyway. So as long as you log on to the computer fairly regularly, log on to Twitter, you can get all these updates anyway. So if you scroll all the way down, you can see you can just turn off the emails, or you can go through each individual one and select which ones you want to remove. So all the news and things like that. We'll just do a couple for now. But yeah, I would suggest that you remove virtually all of those. So back to the presentation and this bit, completing your profile. And as you can see where we are, next down is profile. Now remember, we had a username, the @DysartParkAG, but this is the actual name, so you could say a little bit more information. So I could say action group. Obviously there's not a lot of extra characters available, just a few more, so you have to bear that in mind. So let's try and grant them, and then we can see how it changed on the display. Okay, so it's important as well to have a location in there, usually just a town name, county name. Just helps when people are looking for a particular audience base. This is a local community account. And a website. In this group's case, they have a Facebook group. Normally you'd have a normal website in there. So they can see this every time they come to your biography, so it's important to have it fully complete. And likewise, when you look at the actual description, you've got 160 characters, and you should use them to the full. A community group promotes Dysart Park, hashtag there, which is a keyword that someone may be searching for, gives this profile a chance of being found. Talking about the next event, that sort of detail is what you need. So we'll just save the change to the name, so you can see that's now appeared. But in this area here, there's an opportunity to add additional picture. We can click change header to do that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a picture from a event we had last year. I've put one on the desktop for convenience, and that's Dysart Park. So this is a great picture of Poppy the dog. I just have to adjust it a little bit. We had a horse event where we pounded time for everyone to go around the course, and there's we'll just click apply. We've had the confirmation the picture has been published successfully, and there you see it. It's a little bit hidden away, but we can adjust that later. That appears whenever anybody comes to the profile page from a mobile device, so it just adds a little bit of something. This background here, you can see, can be adjusted as well. You can again put a picture in. You've got to have something that will fill these areas of the screen. That's done by clicking on design. For now I'm just going to pick a different background theme. We've got the clouds by default. Let's just say something a little bit more park-like, if we can, if there is one. Oops, that one with a little bit of green shoots. I'll do for now. So you get the principle anyway. So lots you can do in terms of readiness. I think it saved that, so I'll just go back and do it again. When you make any changes, obviously you need to go down to the bottom of the page and just select saved changes. Okay, so that's the profile. Let's change the color as well. That description, when you click on the link, I'll show you some examples where it's less than complete and the impact that has on your decision whether to follow someone or not. This account, for example, is the classic egg. You can see, I look at this account, no tweets, only following a couple of people. It's not somebody worth following with. It may just be somebody who's connecting with someone else that I want to keep tabs on. Another example, if you're just scrolling through a list of followers to follow back, well, there's one in a different language. There's someone who hasn't got a profile filled out at all. You know, you've got to make the decisions here. Do I follow Ruth? Well, I need to go to look at the bio just to know anything about her. I have to read her tweets. You know, this is why it's so important. You're giving yourself every chance, as we've done for this account. We've got a complete profile, a website. Everything says somebody worth connecting to. If you're in the local area and you want to find out more, you would connect. You click the follow button. So let's move on to what I firmly believe is the most important of the three stages, the build. The thing is, in my experience, it's also the most neglected stage because so many users tend to skip straight from stage one, prepare, and go straight into engaging. Get set up, want to get active. They bypass this stage entirely. They start the tweets, but they find they get minimal responses. And actually there are loads and loads of abandoned Twitter accounts out there where users seem to have become disillusioned, stopped putting the time into it. But as I'll demonstrate, by applying a few simple techniques, it really is possible to proactively find and grow an audience. And most importantly, an audience that's relevant to you and interested. And as I say, Twitter is the best place to do this. Because of the way it works, as I already explained, I follow you, follow me back. But more importantly, because every user on Twitter can create lists of their favourite accounts. Now, some typical lists would be local businesses, local media contacts. But then they can also be quite specific. Chip shops, jewelers, people in Grantham. Think of them a bit like the Yellow Pages. And all you need to do is find a relevant list, follow the members of that list. And if you follow 100 members, and that would take you 10 minutes maximum, on average 30% will follow you back within 48 hours. And because you know they're relevant contacts to you, you gain 30 followers who are then far more likely to engage with you. Let's see how it works. So here we are again in the Dysart Park. And if we click on lists, you get that by clicking on the me icon, remember? So click on lists. and look. What you can see here is that I've already created a number of lists for the accounts. So people who came to the event, talked about it on the day, local businesses. I haven't added many to the list. And this is quite common. You go to any profile out there, you won't find many lists. But what's really important is this bit. It's the member of. Because that's where other accounts out there have interacted and given them a label or given them some definition of how they're relevant to that account. So local news, Lincolnshire organisations, not sure about that one. Lincolnshire, something for the weekend, quirky news items, Lincolnshire organisations, Lincolnshire audiences, non-profits. Hopefully that's an immediate light bulb to say, I want to find relevant, related accounts. This is the way to do it. Look at what accounts are a member of. I've just mentioned media. If you look at a local newspaper, the Grantham Journal, and you just go to the @Grantham Journal name. Again, if I can't find everything, these are just the tweets, so I say people. We'll get much more specific. So I go to that account, and look, I do the same thing. I click on lists, and you can see there's only one list. It might actually be useful because they're the members of the team, but it's the member of. It's obviously been on there a while, lots of tweets, quite a big number of followers, but just look at all of these. Not just newspapers, also local media, also local organisations, TV, radio stations. All of that gives you a precise way to focus in on the followers that you really want to attract. So let's go back to the Dice Up Park one, and we'll bring up the list there. And let's think about subscribed to. Now I can actually subscribe to other people's public lists because it includes, these have the icon from this account, so that shows that they've been created by this account. But if I now want to go and search again for, let's have a look at Rotary Grantham, because I know there's a community list there that I can subscribe to. So I look at the lists that have been created by that page, and there's one on local media. Let's see, Grantham community, ideal. So if I click on that, and there's 5 other subscribers, so I can become the 6th subscriber here, and I can see now back on my own home page, click on Dice Up Park and lists, as well as my own created lists, I can see that additional one as well. So quite easy. If I haven't followed any of these accounts already, I can just click on members, and just as any view on Twitter, I can just go follow. So there's obviously a couple of new ones that I've added in. That's great. Hopefully those accounts will follow the Dice Up Park one back, and when they do, you're unable to follow more people at this time. Learn more here. We'll look at that shortly in the second part. This is the following limit that I've talked about. But carrying on with lists, now we need to know how we create our own list. And again, that's really straightforward. For example, the Guildhall Art Centre, I can click on that, and I can't follow it right now, so I'm going to add it to a list. So I just set the drop down and I say add or remove from lists. I will say Grantham Community, and I just close that box, and that account has now been added to that list that I have. Just look back at that, go to Grantham Community, and say there's now an additional member, and the tweets for Guildhall Art Centre now appear in this list. So as you can see, you can keep an eye, a filtered view if you like, on all the activity in the members of that list. So all I want to see when I log into Twitter is what's happening in the Grantham community at the moment. I could just see all of these 2,000, and there's all kinds of, some are Grantham but some are all around the world. And I just want a filtered view so I can get in and get in touch with organisations. I just go straight to my lists every time. If I just want to look at local media, there's only one in there. Community, I can just go to that list anytime. And the updates from the Rotary Club of Grantham Kesteven, what's happening in the Guildhall. It's very, very useful. So lists are so powerful in those two ways. But it's the following people on a relevant list. That's how, I've added over 120,000 followers for my clients over the last year with the confidence that they are relevant. We agree with the client which lists we'll create. Do we create one for local businesses, one for local media? Do we create specific lists that they're targeting? 5 or 6 lists, and we're in operation. Now, if I want to create local lists of businesses, well, it's always good to know where there are lists available that you can use. So previous accounts, as I mentioned, I've obviously worked on Viking Signs, and as part of that exercise I created a list of East Midlands businesses, Grantham businesses, Lincolnshire businesses. So just need to go to those, and you can see 206 members, 3,702. There are no restrictions other than 5,000 members and 1,000 lists that you can create. So extremely useful. Now you may think, I want to track some people in a list, but I don't want them necessarily to be aware of what I'm grouping them as, because when you add someone to a public list, they get notification they're in it. So what if you had a private list that's only visible to you? Well, you can do that very simply. You say, let's select an account. Let's say South Kesteven Council. And we can now say add or remove from lists, create a list, and look, we've got the option here, public or private, local authority. There'll be a little padlock icon next to that list. When we look from the main view, and there it is. Got to be careful actually to remember to add someone to the list. So let's just go back and complete the job. So we select add or remove from list, and then select the checkbox. That's done now. Okay, so that's how you build the audience, but of course you're going to hit a limit. If you're following 100 a day, after 20 days you've followed 2,000. Look, I've hit this limit now. If I attempt to follow anybody else that I haven't followed, look at any of my followers here, what do I get? This message, learn more here. I click on that. It's a technical limit. Every account can follow 2,000 users in total. There are limits to the number of additional. It doesn't actually tell you exactly what it is, but literally it must be at least 1,850 following you back. So going back to the Twitter page, if I do a search for following limit, you see lots of people saying I've hit a following limit, sorry I can't follow anybody else. Lots of people clamoring around, but I'm going to show you a very simple, easy to use tool called Manage Flitter, which takes care of this issue straight away. So we launch that, to manageflitter.com and you just click start. Now remember, I'm already signed in to the DiceHatPark account, so I just click connect to Twitter. It picks it up. Normally you get an app that pops up and says, are you okay for the Manage Flitter to work with your account? And that's fine, just approve it. So it scrolls through your followers, usually takes less than a couple of minutes. Up the top is how many people you're allowed to unfollow. We've set that on this account to 500 a day. And look, it's discovered out of those people that you're following, nearly 2,002, there's 650 who haven't followed you back. So the way I can look at it is the most recent I've followed. But how about if I change the order? Change the follow order into the first accounts I followed. So I followed this account a while ago, and it actually shows you when the last update was, 14 hours ago, whatever. But the very good chances that these accounts, because they haven't followed you back by now, you can safely unfollow them without upsetting anybody. Okay, so that would now, if I go back to the Twitter account, mean that the following limit is temporarily removed. I can still follow another 5 accounts. The thing is, it's all on a read time. You can also filter and manage Flitter for people who don't have a picture attached, because that's a good indication that they're not very active. You can also find non-English speakers. There's a Rotary Club in Turkey, for example, Santa Run. Okay, so you can remove some of those. Inactive people that haven't tweeted for the last 30 days at least. You can actually see that some of these have not even tweeted at all. Some of these go back quite a long way in the dates. This is again an order thing, so say none of these people have ever tweeted, so I'm following all of these accounts that have never even tweeted, so no benefit in doing that. You can even find fake or spam accounts. So it's a little routine you need to get into every week or two when you hit any sort of limit. Now what happens is, beyond 2,000 you can follow 10% more than follow you back. So once you're past 2,000 you could follow up to 2,200 accounts before you hit another limit. The bigger that number gets, I mean, I have 22,000 followers on my account, so it means I've got an extra 2,200 to play with, additional people I can follow, which is great. It means you don't have to regularly be checking. But the beauty of Manage Flitter is that it is simple to use. It really takes a few minutes to unfollow. You know, by default it's 100, but you can basically select. If you follow their account you get an extra 200. You send a tweet talking about Manage Flitter, then you get more. You don't really need to unfollow more than 200 or 300 at a time anyway. So that's how you build the audience. So you use the techniques to use lists, grow the audience, people follow you back. When you get to any sort of limit, go to Manage Flitter, manage that. You're building a quality audience, and the 500 followers equates to something like 1 million followers of followers. Well, 1,000 followers could be 5-10 million. You've got a really good network. You're ready for the engage stage. So let's go and take a look at that now. Engage. We've got a reasonable audience of genuinely interested followers. So now it's about providing useful, varied and relevant content. But before we rush out and start tweeting, we still need to really plan this out. We need to have some well-defined and realistic targets from the outset. A number of key questions that we need to address before we get underway. First one being, what is the primary objective? Is it that we're looking to increase awareness of existing products or services? Are we looking for new customers, generating new business? Are we planning towards a specific event, and is that something that's established or new? We need to determine our campaign duration, how long we'll run it for, how much time we can allocate on a daily or weekly basis, and you've got to be prepared to adjust this during periods of big interaction, when you're live reporting during an actual event, as an example. Now, as a basic rule of thumb, if there's a particular thing, allow at least 6 weeks before the deadline date to build up. And you have to think about, do you have any other additional social media? Do you have other Twitter accounts you can make use of? Perhaps a Facebook page? And then the website itself, very important. Do you have an existing website, or do you need to set one up from scratch? Can you add buttons, links on the website to connect it together? Because think of social media as the glue, the connection between all these things. It's not something separate in its own. It really does bring out the best, bring traffic to your website, and website brings traffic to your social media. That's how it should be. It's an essential ingredient to have a really good, easily usable website. Now, if you don't have the budget for a website, you could look at something free to set up, like a blog, weblog on a platform like WordPress or Blogspot, which can be done for free if you're prepared to accept a slightly longer .wordpress.org domain name. There are other options with WordPress that you can convert it to a website at some other stage down the track. So, having thought about the initial planning, it's all about raising awareness now. It's time to join the conversation. So, in order to maximize the most number of people that you can reach, here are a few simple strategies. Firstly, ask your network for help. Even if you've only got a few followers, a lot of your existing contacts will already be well established on Twitter. If you took a Rotary Club as an example, if you search for Rotary on Twitter, you'll find the main Rotary International account. Let's just take a look at that. If I search now for Rotary, so I find one of the many hundreds, thousands of Rotary clubs that have joined the network. Most of the clubs will be followed by this account, and if you ask, please retweet, can you send out, they tend to do that on a regular basis every day from particular accounts. Secondly, engage with all the relevant interest groups. You've got the lists in Twitter. You can find the people you need to introduce yourself to. You can see when you're in a list who's the most active on the list, particularly during conversation hours. We'll talk about those shortly, the business hours, etc. You can get a pattern for who is likely to really engage with you. And you've got to be consistent. You've got to try to be on. It's not about being on there for every day and loads of hours, but you've got to set particular patterns. Try specific time windows every day. You know, things like mornings between 9 and 10, early afternoons. There's no hard and fast rules about where you're going to get the interaction from. But I would say a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 times a day is just as effective as half an hour in one block. And remember the 3 R's: reply, recommend and retweet. It's not about you broadcasting a stream of tweets just from your account. Like here, retweeted other things during the actual event itself, or great feedback here. We highlighted that earlier. Other accounts that talked about the same event, you know, a mixture rather than it's just you broadcasting. There's one of the sponsors, for example. It's joining the conversation. As you scroll down, and I think we touched on this earlier, when you have a photo, it really is impactful as someone's scrolling through. What are they going to pay attention to? There's one from a Santa fun run. I mean, that's a great photo. People are drawn to these sort of things, and yet they'll see the photos in your collection in the top corner of your profile anyway. So the one-page sheet I'll pass out during the courses will show you how, little reminder points about paying it forward, leaving a little space for retweets at the end. There's lots of different things. But when we're in the engaged stage, one of the problems that people still have is that they're struggling to come up with new content and stay on top of it. So let's look at how we can use scheduling and updates through a tool, again free to use tools as we've already looked at. Hootsuite is the one that we're going to showcase, but there are other ones, TweetDeck, Buffer. You can take a look and have a look on the YouTube and see if there's something there that you can make use of. But we're going to use Hootsuite, and to bring it up, hopefully I have it already loaded up, the dashboard, and I've created an account for Dysart Park just for this demonstration. So we'll just log in with the email address. I used a different one. Okay. Click the sign in. Okay, so a pop up there because it's a new thing. So we're at a very beginner's stage, so we can't see anything on our dashboard at the moment. We have to populate it. There's two things. First is to add a social network. Click connect with Twitter. Just confirm the Dysart Park one is already on there, I believe. Okay, so now we've added that. So it suggests a few things. So if I click on that home, that's everything that can be seen from its network. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily worth looking at. Every time Dysart Park is mentioned in tweets, that's probably worth monitoring. There's the chair of Dysart Park group, so I get that message. Every time it's retweeted, perhaps. So it's very easy to just build. Scheduled is the one that we're going to look at in a little bit more detail, because that is not becoming a robot and fully automating everything you do, but think about the time you have. If you have a series of really good tweets with content updated over a few days, you don't have to be there at every second to come up with the new content. So it's a great idea to think of scheduling some tweets. You can even see lists in one view, all sorts of things. But yeah, let's see how in this bit, which is exactly the same, 140 characters. If I type in, you see it counts down the number of characters. You've got the add a link, and this is another clever bit, because if you add a link and shorten it using the Hootsuite application, you can then check how that link is doing in the analytics section here. But what I'm going to do is go to the Facebook page. In fact, now what we'll do is we'll go through previous tweets and see if there's any that we can use to put into the schedule. So if we go back, here's a link to a YouTube event. So if I just copy this, so select that and copy, pause that. Okay, so now I need to go back to my Hootsuite interface. Should be here. Okay, so I can actually just paste that message into the compose message. So that's the shortened link automatically. So a reminder of okay, so you can adjust it how you like. And now I can say send now, or I can schedule it. So I'm going to schedule it for later today. Now you can automatically schedule. By turning that on, you can just say you take charge of it. So I click auto schedule now. It will pick an optimum time based on your previous tweets. Now what I need to do is add the stream that tracks scheduling. So I'll just do that. Look, I can see now it's going to be sent at 10:50 AM today. So I can edit that, change it manually to 12:25 PM, say, save that change. And again, we can just keep an eye on how many we've got scheduled. You can schedule up to 350 messages at any one time. Now, one final great thing is if we just take the scenario that we don't have a login to Twitter right now, we're logged out, we can be browsing and we say that we'll Google for something about Dysart Park, Grantham. Okay. Okay. So for example, as a Grantham Matters event, let's see. Here's an old advertising event from the Grantham Journal. Now say I wanted to share that without logging into Twitter. As I've said, I'm not already connected. I can look at this. I've installed an extension on the browser which takes a few minutes to do, called Hootlet. And guess what? It brings up the exact same interface as you get on Hootsuite. Just allow a cookie so you can see that. And look, you can say which accounts you publish it to. So the Dysart is the one I've registered, and I can say schedule that, and I can say 18th of March, auto schedule or schedule. So I don't even need to be logged in to be able to post messages onto my Twitter feed. So it's great. Well, just while you're doing something else and you think that'd be a great article to share, for example a news story or anything like that, you can just click on that owl icon anytime and it'll already pre-fill. It'll even shorten the link, as you see, automatically for you. If you had another link, let's just show you an example. Dysart Park, PRwilsonmedia video. I feel that'll find one of the YouTube videos. Yes, so here was another one. we had an acrobatics group taking part during the event. If I was to click on this, it automatically shorten it. But if I was to click on it and say shrink, do the same thing. So I'm going to say, pause that for a second. I'm going to schedule it for the 18th and say schedule. So again, no logging into Twitter. It's all done through the Hootsuite interface. You just need to be logged into that once, and then it will automatically take you through. So this really does get you moved past that issue of, well, I can't think of what to tweet. We're just going to delete all of these scheduled ones because they were just for a demonstration. But you can see the real power of this, being able to not only monitor how you're getting on, but also to be able to plan in advance content, leaving you free to do other things. And you can have whole strings of campaigns. You can manage more than one. You can have at least 5 social networks you can add into each Hootsuite account for free. So going back to the final stage of the conversation, really it's time to wrap up. We've seen walkthrough demonstrations now of those 3 key stages: prepare, build and engage. No matter what your goals on social media, those 3 things have to be considered in equal measure. You really need to get your preparation right. You need to have the profile complete. Then you need to build an audience, and then is the best time to engage and repeat the process again and again. You can continue to engage. So those are the key learning points. I'd like to ask you now, what are the things that you as a business are going to go away and work on? 1 or 2 things that you've learned today. What are those things? Just share with the group. I would suggest that the most important thing you need to be aware of is that there are simple ways to cut through all of the babble and the conversations and just get the benefits that you need. If you don't build an audience, really you're losing an awful lot of time. So make sure that's in your plan. There's a huge number of training resources I can tell you about. I'm fortunate enough to be running a series of masterclasses for the Lincolnshire Chamber of Commerce coming up, regularly promoting to various business clubs, and most importantly, if you don't have the time or the resources to sit down and do training, all of this stuff, including this video of course, is on the YouTube channel. I'll just show you the YouTube channel. I'll just go to my channel. I've got 166 videos on there, 116 subscribers, and look, on the front page you can see the whole collection of social media videos. You can go to that one list and step through every single one. There's something like 58 videos, or you can just go back through individual videos. I've got my introduction page. If you just want to look at the Facebook videos, if you just want to look at these Twitter training videos, stuff about YouTube, it's all on there. Hi, Paul here from PRwilsonmedia. Thanks ever so much for dropping by my YouTube channel. I'm passionate. Asking 2 things really. One is, if you have any further questions, want to get in touch, have you left your email address? Here are my contact details, everything you need there. I offer a free 1 hour's consultation so we can go through how you can approach your 3 stages whether it's right for you to look for more additional training, or I can point you to resources where you can do things for yourself if you feel confident enough or have the time available to do that. I'm always very keen to see examples and hear from people about how it's made a difference to them, so do please stay in touch. And yep, just get in touch you'll always find me on social media, that's for sure. PRwilsonmedia on Twitter is probably my primary account, but often I'm spending time on other accounts as well. So look forward to hearing from you. Hope it's been useful, and thanks very much again for attending.